I'm Leslie Osborne. I play for the Boston Breakers and the U.S. national team. I'm 26 years old and I play center midfield.
Leslie, and you're from Wisconsin. Leslie, when was your ACL injury?
I tore mine May 29th, 2008, a couple months before the Olympics.
Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember it perfect. I was just at national team practice marking Heather Mitz, a teammate of mine, and she just dribbled out and I wanted to go with her, but one leg went that way and my other leg went the other way, and I heard this massive pop. And pretty sure everyone around us that heard the pop knew that my ACL had just torn.
Being an obvious question, how'd you feel at the time?
It was, there was no doubt in my mind that I didn't tear my ACL, and everyone kept telling me, stay positive, it could be cartilage, you know, but I knew it was my ACL, and it hit me right then and there. It was done, and I sat on that bench that whole practice and just watched my teammates and realized that the Olympic roster had just been named 2 days earlier, and I knew that, you know, I wasn't going to be playing in the Olympics, and I knew I had a long road of recovery ahead of me, and it was real. It hit me right away.
So it hit you right away, which often doesn't hit people.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a blessing.
Yeah.
I guess my next question is a weird one, but knowing you were off the Olympic roster, knowing what was the first thing you did towards finding the right answer or finding the right doctor?
Well, unfortunately, a lot of women in our sport tear their ACLs, so talk about having good resources. I had 7 of my teammates that had torn their ACL in the last 5 years, so unfortunately, it's very common within women, but it was nice to be able to talk to 7 different players and teammates and friends to try to get advice from them on which doctor, what type of surgery. I mean, there's so many questions to be answered. Where do you go? What doctor do you see? What type of surgery? All these things you have no idea that entail part of the surgery. So it was a good thing I had all these resources, but also a bad thing that it's so common in our sport. But for me, the next 2 days, I just talked to people and researched doctors on my own. I had my family and friends, you know, giving me the recommendations, but sometimes when you get so many different people telling you what to do, you're like, someone just tell me what to do, because
right.
There's a lot of information and a lot of questions that, you know, you need to have answered. So it was a pretty interesting time to be able to find all those answers and find a doctor, and there was a lot to it.
Were there common things amongst the 7 players that you talked to?
You would think that there would be common things, but it was amazing to hear how many different experiences each player had and what type of surgery each player liked more. So you talk to one person, oh, go with the cadaver, oh yeah, and then you talk to someone else, no, go with, you know, so every time I walked away with one of them, I was like, okay, I think I'm going to do that surgery, and then it would change. So it was a lot more difficult than I thought.
And a lot of that, you know, what I'm leading into is a lot of that was you being resourceful.
Oh, yeah.
As, you know, the doctor on your team or the trainer on your team coming to you with the resources, with everything dialed in. So when was your surgery?
It was 3 weeks after I tore it to make sure I was strong enough to go in, and unfortunately I had torn all my ligaments in my ankle too, so I had to find a surgeon that was comfortable with doing both surgeries at the same time. And I went and saw 5 doctors, and all 4 of them said, no, 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 do the ankle, then the knee, then the ankle. And then I finally found my college doctor who said, you know what, let's just do this at the same time. And I was like, okay. And, you know, that was difficult to get 5 different opinions. And so it was up to me. I was the one making the decision what I felt the most comfortable with. And I had never had a major injury like this before. It was up to me to make that decision. So it was kind of...
And that's a heavy burden.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I had to go with what was in my heart, but, you know, that's a very difficult decision. And, yeah, so I had 2 surgeries done 3 weeks later, and I was on an ACL brace for 2 months and an ankle cast for 2 months, so I couldn't walk for 2 months, so my whole left leg was in a brace and cast.
So you mentioned the ankle, and I didn't know that going in. Did they tell you, did the doctors, trainers tell you if that could have been prevented, if that ankle was stronger,
Yeah.
Would that have prevented the ACL injury?
Yeah, unfortunately they had told me, all of the doctors said that the reason why I did tear my ACL was because I had no ligaments left in my ankle, and I was just compensating on anything I had in my leg, and that was the first thing to go was my knee. And you know, they asked me, did you know how stretched out your ligaments were? Did you know that you had some broken? And you know, I would do like strengthening, rehab, but I wasn't being told that, you know, how severe it was. And if I could have prevented and strengthened and understood of how the severity of my ankle weakness, I know I wouldn't have torn my ACL. So, you know, it was a responsibility on me, but also the responsibility also lays on the, you know, team and the professionals that, you know, look after us. So
right.
I can only do so much, and if I think I'm doing enough, I'm going to do that. And, you know, I wish that I would have known, but at the same time, I know now, and I try to give advice to other kids and other players, you know, like, do your stuff, make sure you get checked out, talk to people, to be proactive, because otherwise you just think you're doing enough, and sometimes it's not enough.
And that was going to be my last question. Would you be open to a community of people and being open to not only share their story with me, but to share their story with anyone and at any time? Because I think you would lead a lot of people into ACL prevention, which is very big in women's sports.
Yeah, it's huge. I never would have thought that I would tear my ACL. I'm probably like a lot of the other girls out there. Oh, not me. I'm strong. I'm fit. I've got strong quads. You know, why me? You know, and it's me. It's reality. And that recovery of 12 months plus to come back was, you know, very challenging, and it's made me a stronger person and everything overall and player. But if I could have had that community, especially the first year of my rehab and picking a doctor and picking a trainer and the rehab facilities, there's so much involved. And I'm a professional athlete, but for people who I had to do rehab with that, you know, work and tear their ACLs, and I'm seeing them on their lunch break doing the rehab and trying to get through this. And I would just love to be able to talk to other kids and parents and give them what I've gone through, because I know that at a time like that, I was lost, and I had to do a lot of that on my own and make my own decisions.
Well, Leslie, thank you.
Thank you.